Welcome back to College Football Addiction. I've got Drew back on with us again. Bama just keeps having big games, so we keep doing this over and over again. But a big one this weekend is well, I'll start out with the nice stuff. How are you doing, Drew?
I'm doing good. It's been quite a month for the Tide, and certainly, yeah, I was on your show and I picked them to lose to Georgia, but they found a way to win. It wasn't pretty, but they found a way to beat Kirby's tough guys, and then they, and then Vanderbilt was. I knew it was going to be and we were on with you again, and I knew Vanderbilt was going to be a tough game, and it was, and they're a good football team, and I got a chance to see Missouri, last week, and I knew that was going to be another tough one. I was worried about the emotional toll that the previous two had taken on Alabama. But they handled it well, even though they got off to another slow start like they did against Vanderbilt. But I'll just say, after seeing the two teams play, I think the more complete team is Vanderbilt, but Missouri is better along the defensive line and can rush the passer a little bit better.
Yeah.
I do think Vanderbilt is a more complete offensive team, especially. Purvua didn't impress me as a passer. He can move, but he struggled to throw the ball downfield. Now Kevin Coleman getting injured didn't help, but I wasn't really impressed with his vision. It's going to be interesting to see how they do against Auburn, because that's because Missouri, that's the first adversity they face. This will be the first road game for Missouri. But in Auburn, as you know, you're covering Florida State and over there in Tampa, TJ. Florida State's and Auburn are kind of mirroring each other. They both are taking on a lot of water, and so we'll see what happens. But Alabama seems to be getting better. I think their leadership is really strong, and their core, led by Ty Simpson and Tim Keenan. But we'll see. I'm a little worried about this game coming up against Tennessee. It's a huge rivalry game, and it's not so much the emotional toll on Alabama. I think they're even keeled, but they're beat up.
Yeah.
Ryan Williams was limited in the last game. Nobody really knew how badly he was hurt after they beat Vanderbilt, but he didn't practice all week last week. And then they weren't going to play him until Derek Meadows got knocked out. And they already had two other receivers. Jalen Mbakwe had a hand issue. And then, as you saw, Derek Meadows got knocked out early. And then Jalen Hale, was sick. So they only had 7 receivers on the trip. That got it down to 6. So they had to play Ryan, and he was basically a decoy. He was only targeted once. But when you have a good freshman class, Alabama does. Latsier Brooks stepped up late, and Ty Simpson did what a great quarterback needs to do. He didn't have his best game, but when he had to be great, he was. And
Yeah.
Alabama found a way to win and beat a good Missouri team on the road.
The yeah, you talked about the mental side, and then obviously the physical side plays into it too. But just the stretch that Bama's on now, it may lighten up a little bit down the road. Not it never lightens up fully, but the stretch of going, Georgia, bye week, Vandy, up to Missouri, now to play a pretty good Tennessee team. Then who do they have after that? Is it Oklahoma or
They have the bye after South Carolina, and then LSU.
yeah,
Oklahoma,
South
yes.
Carolina on the road, and then
Yes,
LSU too.
Carolina.
Like that
Yeah.
6-game stretch is ridiculous. Like
Oh, when I saw it, yeah, you're right. When I saw it before the season, I knew this stretch was going to be very, very difficult. And the thing is, South Carolina, I thought wouldn't be as good as people were predicting, which they were predicting in the top 15 in the country, and I've been right on that. But yet they're still capable, because you
they
have
are. And
like Sellers, who gave Alabama a lot of trouble last year.
going into Williams Bryce, a wounded animal, and we're not going to preview that one yet. Probably do it next week. But like going into Williams Bryce, a team that's desperate and has to win. Yeah, I worry for Oklahoma going in there this weekend. And then you mentioned Tennessee. What's interesting about that is you talked about like Vandy being maybe a more complete game, Missouri being able to do certain things well. And so I agree with that. Like the matchup is just what. Like the matchup was weird for Bama. Plus, home and away is big. I don't think this, and we'll get into it now. I don't think this is a great matchup for Tennessee on paper. Now, football's weird, and you mentioned the rivalry, and I don't know if you have a take on this, but there are people have told me that yeah, they don't like Auburn, and yeah, they don't like Georgia and LSU and some of these other programs, but like the hatred that exists for Tennessee is maybe on a little bit different level. And then, maybe the inverse too for Tennessee coming back to Bama. So football's weird, but I don't, on paper, if you could take the rivalry out of it, which you can't, I don't love this matchup for the Vols.
Well, defensively, their numbers aren't very good against the run or pass, but the one thing that they do that could give Alabama some problems is they can rush the passer. They've got 26 sacks. Alabama needs to make some adjustments along their offensive line. I think they're in the midst of doing that. Michael Carroll, who was a five-star kid from IMG Academy from Pennsylvania, he is their most athletic right tackle. He's got the knee bend and the athleticism and the nastiness. Probably needs to replace Wilkin Formby, the redshirt sophomore in the lineup at right tackle. Jaden Roberts, who was a preseason second team All SEC guy, got a concussion in camp and has had three, and he's also had some issues with this offense. It's very complex, and the thing is, people I didn't understand is last year it was simplified for Milrow.
Yeah.
What you're watching Ty Simpson do is what this offense is supposed to be year in and year out. And they put a lot on the quarterback, especially from the standpoint of adjusting protections and changing plays. And you've seen Ty be able to do that. And so, but Jaden is coming back. He played the most snaps he's played all season last game. He gives them a lot of power from the standpoint of running the football and he's a veteran with a lot of experience, really a 2-year starter in 23 and 24. So it wouldn't shock me if he and Vandemark, rotate, and even if Jaden starts. So we'll see. They may have a little bit of a different lineup on that offensive front. And the key is going to be protecting Ty Simpson. He's the head of the snake. They've got to protect him. They got to block that pass rush because Tennessee's been able to rush the passer and create turnovers. And so Alabama's got to protect the ball. They've got to win the turnover battle. And that's what they've been doing during this streak. And then they've got to possess it because Tennessee's very explosive offensively. They run it with three different guys. They've got three good receivers, and they've got a quarterback in Aguilar. He does have 5 picks, but he's a much better passer, in my opinion, than Nico Iamaleava, who was more athletic. And but I think they've got to pressure Aguilar. They've got to make him uncomfortable. I thought the pass rush was better against Missouri. They need to do the same to Aguilar. They need to heat him up, move him off his spot, and as I said, win that turnover battle. And then if they can win, the time of possession and Tennessee's on the sideline, they can't score. And I just think, they should be able to move the ball. The concern to me is offensively for Alabama.
I'll get right back to the video, but first I do want to tell you about our friends over at Sleeper. Do not delay. We're like halfway through the month. The offer only goes through October, but if you've been waiting to deposit, if you've been waiting to put money into the app, you don't even have to do that now. You get a free $20 play by putting our code in CFA for college football addiction on the Sleeper app. The link in the description literally will auto-populate that for you. You don't have to spend money. You don't have to deposit if you're cheap or you just don't trust whatever. Go and make a free play right now. You get a free $20 on the Sleeper app. You go in, you pick more or less on at least 2 players, games that you like. They've got free picks all the time. I saw that last night Jared Goff had a more or less of 0.5. Go and deposit on the Sleeper app right now. If you also want a $100 match up to $100, you can get that. But again, you don't have to. You just get a free $20 play. Go and play. We'll play that live on the Power 2 on Wednesday. Give you some of our favorite picks from the weekend. Let you know how we did last week so you can trust or fade what we're doing. Appreciate Sleeper for their support. Go check them out.
How limited is Ryan Williams? Because I think
Yeah.
it's a pull or a strain, something like that. Is he going to be more like the Ryan Williams we saw, against UL Monroe or excuse me, and I apologize. In the game against Wisconsin, or is he going to be the guy that we saw against Vanderbilt, or is he going to be the guy that against Florida State who didn't catch the football very well, and then against or this past game where he's just so limited. I mean, how healthy is he? Is the basic premise, and then the biggest one to me, even bigger than Ryan, is Jam Miller. I heard
Yeah.
today that he was practicing in a black jersey. They're more optimistic. I think Meadows is going to be out, and that doesn't surprise me. The wide receiver that was knocked out in the last game, but Jams did not look as severe, but still, concussions are funny. He was having a really good game, his second straight really good game. I thought he was on the way to another 100-yard game before he went out early in the fourth quarter. So we'll see. I think if he plays, Alabama's got a really good shot. But the one thing I'll give Alabama staff credit for, Kevin Riley did a good job last game. He's been the backup primarily. And then we saw Daniel Hill, who came in the fourth quarter, caught the game-winning touchdown, and then was running the football too pretty effectively. So I think they could withstand not having Jam, but having a Jam Miller that's healthy enough to play would be huge in this matchup. And I think again, possessing the football, getting some stops from Tennessee. I don't think you're never gonna completely contain them the way they play offensively, the way they spread you out. But if you can get 3 or 4 stops, and if those include a couple of turnovers that maybe help you get points, then I think you can win the football game at home. It's going to be an electric crowd, and what you just said, you hit the nail on the head. Auburn is Alabama's, I would say biggest rival because it's an in-state deal. It's like Ohio State, Michigan, but it's Duke, North Carolina in basketball. It's a huge rivalry, but their most historic rival is Tennessee, and because of one Philip Fulmer, who I grew up with, they are hated.
Yeah.
At least by the majority of the fan base, including myself. I don't mind saying that on this show. I say it on my own show. I hate Tennessee, and I hate Philip Fulmer. And it's the football program. It's not, have utmost respect for the late Pat Summitt. I think she's the greatest women's basketball coach that ever walked the planet. I have great respect for Rick Barnes and what he's done with their men's basketball program. And Tony Vitello has done great things with the baseball program. But Tennessee football, it's hated by the fan base. There used to be a lot of mutual respect when Coach Majors was there. And, of course, General Neyland, Coach Bryant had great respect for him. Matter of fact, Coach Bryant always said that he knew his team was a championship contender if he could beat Tennessee. That was kind of the measuring stick. But there's a lot of hatred because of what went on with Coach Fulmer and between Alabama and Tennessee, and it still lingers. And there's nothing that Alabama fans like more than beating the Vols. I can tell you that.
Lighten up the cigars afterwards, ready to do it. I think when I think about the two offenses, and you mentioned time of possession, I feel like, and I know that Ty had the one pick last week, but it feels like Alabama has just been the picture and the model of consistency when it comes to just taking what the defense will give them. They don't necessarily have to have the biggest shot play, the down the field 60-yard pass or anything crazy like that. Tennessee, though, a little bit on the other side, right? They have, when they have had success, you think about the first half against Georgia, you think about some of their games, they have kind of lived and died by the deep ball. And when I think about that, I think that the path to an Alabama win probably relies on a little less risk, and the path to a Tennessee win probably relies a little bit heavier on risk reward. Now, if those big plays are hitting for Tennessee, like they did against Georgia, then sure, they'll be in it. And this will be a fourth quarter game. If they're not on the road in Bryant-Denny against a defense that is playing certainly better than they were, to start the year, then I think that's where it gets a little tougher for Tennessee. For Alabama, a lot of it is go out and play the way that you need to play, and it's going to take a pretty, I don't want to say like Herculean effort. Like it's not going to take like something insane like Aguilar going for 400 yards, but it'll take Tennessee kind of playing above their heads to be able to do it.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, TJ. I think if Tennessee is going to beat Alabama, first of all, they're going to have to win the turnover battle, and secondly, they're going to have to be balanced offensively. I don't think that they can just throw the football and beat Alabama. I think Alabama's secondary has played well. Certainly they made a couple mistakes against Missouri early, but I think Dejon Lee, the freshman corner, he got the game-sealing interception. He is putting a lot of pressure on Damani Jackson, who's the senior corner, who came in with a lot of accolades, but he's putting a lot of heat on him. It wouldn't even shock me. Like, he played twice as many snaps as Damani did in the last game, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in this game because each and every game it seems Dejon's getting better. He's a five-star from California who, when I saw him in the spring, I thought he was just a freakazoid. and I knew that he was going to have an impact as a freshman. And he's got uncommon ball skills. Now he had a rough go of it against Florida State. Squirrel White ran by him in the first quarter, and he kind of got indoctrinated. But he's shown mental toughness and bouncing back. And I think if Alabama can keep Tennessee in front of them, and that's kind of what you're referring to with Tennessee taking shots. If they can keep the Vols in down and distance situations that aren't ideal, and if they can hold up against those that deep ball, which they didn't, in 2022. Jalen Hyatt just had a game for the ages. Alabama couldn't cover him. But if they do a good job of that, then I think Alabama can have some success, and I think they can even turn Tennessee over. But it's certainly not going to be easy. I like the Tide. The spread surprised me early as far as being Alabama being a 13-point favorite. I thought Alabama would be a favorite, but I was surprised it was 2 scores. And it's now gone down to 7.5 in most places. I've got Alabama covering by half a point, 38-30. I think they can win this game. Now, I've got compatriots of mine that I can respect in the media that think it's like you, that it's a bad matchup and that Alabama, if they play their A game, can beat Tennessee by double figures. And I think that could happen, but I just worry because Alabama's a little banged up, and Tennessee maybe a little healthier, and they're talented. I think
No.
they're throwing and catching as good as they were in 22 before they played Alabama. Of course, that game was in Neyland. This game is in Bryant-Denny Stadium. They haven't won there since 03, when Alabama had a 1st and 2 and couldn't make 2 yards to close the game out. And yes, I'll never forget that game. And Alabama messed up a 4th and 19. They blew a coverage when they had Tennessee beat, and and lost that game. But certainly, I do think Alabama's the better team. I think they've got the better roster. I think Heupel's done a good job, but I think if Ty Simpson plays his game and they protect him, I think he's the better of the 2 quarterbacks, though I have respect for Aguilar and what he's been able to do. And then I think if Alabama can run the football a little bit, and I think that's one underlying thing people haven't seen is that Alabama the last 2 weeks has run it better. They do need to pass protect a little bit better than they did against Mizzou, and that's the one matchup I'm a little worried about with Tennessee. But certainly, this coaching staff under Kalen DeBoer has made some nice adjustments in what they've been doing, and I just think that Alabama, this is another game that they've had circled because it was one they felt like get away from them a year ago, and Tennessee was really good. I mean, they let some opportunities slip through their fingers. They should have been up double digits at half. They were only up 7-0, and Tennessee wore them down the second half. So I do think that Alabama can win this game, and I think it's all about protecting protecting the football. And if they do that, the way this offense is designed, it's really designed as a ball control passing game.
No.
And, they didn't get a lot of – I'll give Missouri credit. One thing that Missouri did that I wasn't expecting is they took Jeremy Bernard kind of out of the game. And then with Ryan being limited, and Horton got off to a good start, but they didn't make a lot of big plays vertically. I think they can make a couple of those against Tennessee, and I think they'll need to. And again, I just think – from a matchup standpoint, it comes down to Alabama protecting the ball, having balance offensively. But then if they protect 15, I think he's the best quarterback in the SEC, and I think he can deliver a home win over a school I know he wants to beat because he's from Martin, Tennessee, and he heavily considered the Vols before going to Alabama, so he understands this rivalry, no question.
You mentioned Aguilar, and yeah, I think Ty is. I agree with you. I think he's been the best quarterback in the SEC this year. I said it after the Florida State game. I didn't think he was the problem, right? The drops. I was telling somebody else this earlier. I think the drops are one of the most underrated things that happened. Now they got bullied up front, and that's still surprising to think about. But man, some of those drops came on like 3rd and 7s and 2nd and 10s that would have extended drives. And I don't want to say that if you take the drops away, Bama would have won because you just really have no idea of knowing. But man, there were times that they just had to give the ball back to Florida State, and then the Noles would go down and score again, or the Noles would take 6 or 7 minutes off the clock, whatever it was. And so, to me, the drops were such a big deal. It wasn't on Ty. Yeah, it could have been better in certain spots. Sure, nobody's played a perfect game so far. But you mentioned Ty, and I agree. He's been the best. I have been so impressed with Aguilar. And I know we're kind of talking about it from the Bama perspective. He's been much better than I thought, and I'm trying to quickly go through in my mind, has he been the second best quarterback in the league this year?
He's in the top 3 or 4.
Right. It's not other guys have had big moments, and Pavia early, Mateer had some big moments early in the Michigan game. But it's not Arch, it's not DJ. Bo didn't look very good last week. Like I'm probably Marcel's been really good. Reed's been really good. But it's not.
Trinidad Chambliss, I mean,
Yeah,
he's been a
Ellis in there
revelation.
too. Like those are the four. Like
Yeah.
Reed, Aguilar, Simpson, and Chambliss. Like I mean, it ain't Nuss. It ain't like it ain't some of the guys we thought it would be. We thought Sellers and Nuss and Lagway and Manning, and it ain't been those guys. It's been some of the guys you didn't really expect it from. In fact, I don't know if we'd have had those four that we're saying have been the top in our top four, right? We might have put the other ones, Lagway, Arch, Nussmeyer, and Sellers. So, but Aguilar's been really impressive. I do wonder a little bit, can he go on the road and do that not in England, in Bryant Denny? That's a tough place to. I was looking at hotels, which are outrageous for the game next year. We're coming up there, but I've been there and I've seen it, and I've seen Beck struggle. Like I've seen, and I just maybe he does. Maybe he does go out there and just put on a show. I think that there's a bigger likelihood that this tough atmosphere going on the road is where it kind of catches up with him. But all credit to him. He won't be the first and won't be the last if he does struggle quarterback to go into Alabama and struggle, because that's not an easy place to play.
Well, and I go back to, and I have Gunnar Stockton's a good player. I just don't think he's as good as these two guys. And
Yeah.
Gunnar certainly gave Tennessee some problems, so I think Ty can without a doubt. Now, but Aguilar, I thought he would be good or okay to good. But I just thought he would not be elite or anywhere close to it, and that Tennessee would be about an 8-4 team. But he's been much better than I thought he would, and that's a credit to him and Heupel, and because he got there and didn't get there till June, but he'll only be a 1-year guy. But he's been a really good player so far, and Alabama's going to have to heat him up, pressure him, and force him into some mistakes. I mean, there's no question about it. If you don't, his supporting cast, and another thing too, Tennessee's only given up 4 sacks. So their offensive line has been solid. Alabama's going to have to get after them. Now, and of course, I think a lot of it had to do with Missouri's schedule, but Missouri hadn't given up many. And so Alabama needed to heat up Purvula, and they did. And again, Tennessee's schedule hasn't been the most difficult, but they did play Georgia, and we saw that was an epic game. Alabama had an epic game, a little bit different style game. It was more of an up and down, high scoring game with the Dogs for Tennessee. But I just think if Alabama can do some crucial things right, continue to win time of possession, win the turnover battle, and then it's as simple as this: Ty outplay Joey Aguilar, because he outplayed Purvula. A lot of people thought Purvula was going to outplay him because of the schedule and the way it set up for Alabama, but Ty was better. Now, he wasn't spectacular, but when he had to be, he was elite and won the game. And so he'll need to be elite on Saturday. And if Ty Simpson is elite against this Tennessee defense that's opportunistic but can be had, then I think Alabama can win this game. And I think Alabama will be tough to cover, because especially if they can get more from Ryan Williams. If he's healthier, he's a matchup issue. And then you've got Isaiah Horton, who can get downfield, can make plays. And then Jeremy Bernard. I think that was Jerm's quietest game by far. He needs to have a 100-yard game Saturday for Alabama to beat Tennessee for the 17th time in 19 tries.
Drew, where can people follow you? Where can they find all your content and all that you do?
Absolutely, man. They can connect with me at DrewD977ESPN on my X account. Our station is at 977ESPN. And, of course, if you miss any of Talking Ball, we're on 8 to 10 Eastern in your market, but 7 to 9 Central Time, here in my neck of the woods. But certainly you can check out our SoundCloud page at 97.7 The Zone. ESPN 97.7 The Zone, or you can go to 977ESPN.com and check out all of our content. And we've had a great week this week. There's a lot of good football to be played. From a college standpoint, we've also covered SEC media tip-off from basketball because, as you know, and heck, matter of fact, I'm going to be watching your school tomorrow against Alabama in Birmingham over in Boutwell Auditorium. And it's a small venue, but it's going to be balling in Boutwell, and it's going to be surreal because it's a new era. Luke Locke's taking over at Florida State, and not seeing Leonard Hamilton on the sideline is going to be kind of surreal for me because of the run he had at Florida State. looking forward to seeing Bama and FSU playing hoops, and then looking forward to covering this Alabama Tennessee game on Saturday because it's a rivalry unlike any other. A lot of pageantry, a lot of passion, and looking forward to it. And we always enjoy being on with you and talking some SEC and Alabama football.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time a ton. Thank you for being gracious with us. I know, like I said, Bama Q's having big games, so find a slot for us next week, and I'm sure we'll have you back. On Laux, yeah, I met with Laux in May, I think May or June, I don't know, somewhere around there. And man, he was great. I'm really excited to see what he does. It is going to be weird not having Ham there. I also like those small venues because like I played. I was only good enough to play like high school basketball. Like that's as good as I ever got. And then I coached for a few years too. So I like the small venue. It almost gives you that high school type feel. Plus, it's not a regular season game. So, it's not as, crazy, nobody's, I mean, you want to win because you're playing and we're all competitive, but, I'm jealous of you. I saw it was in Birmingham and then I was like, man, middle of the week. I got my aunt lives up in Scottsboro, so not too far from you. But,
Nice.
I was just like, dude, middle of the week. There's no way I'll get away with this for an exhibit. My wife will kill me. But I was looking at it and I was like, I can't.
I will tell you this: you might want to
jealous.
look at it. They've been carrying it. They've been having games all week at Boutwell. I watched a lot of the Alabama A&M and Samford game because we've got two kids. I'm repping Huntsville High right now. We've got two kids at Samford,
Yeah.
and it was on TV on YouTube, so you might want to check it out. It's sponsored by Ibbotts. You may be able to watch it on YouTube, so that way you can't get too irritated. You can sit there.
Don't send me any pictures. I'll get mad.
Yeah.
Drew, I appreciate it a ton, man. Good luck this weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.